You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts now.
Well, guys, we're going to be talking about biological men competing in women's sports. That has been a hot topic over the past couple of years, ever since really Leah Thomas decided to actually compete with women in women's sports and swimming at UPenn. Born Will Thomas, a biological male. And guys, ever since then, we have seen an increase in the number of biological men actually going out and competing in female sports. And there is a growing number of females, actual biological females, who are fed up with this. They're fed up with this. I mean, guys, if you would have told me 10 years ago that we would have this many biological males identifying as females competing in women's sports, I would have thought you were crazy. However, there is a growing number of actual females that are rejecting this thing. And one of the people that has been vocal about this has been Sam Ponder of ESPN, along with Sage Steele as well. Now, we have this one woke journalist, if you even want to call this person a journalist, because I believe that journalism is dead, came out and attacked Sam Ponder for standing up for female sports. Now, I find it funny, guys, that this journalist, Nancy Armour, did not actually attack Sage Steele. Interesting. But let's go ahead and get into this, guys. Here we go. USA Today columnist ESPN Sam Ponder defense of women's sports. Plain old bigotry. Yes, this woke journalist, and I'm using journalist lightly, says it is bigotry to actually defend women's sports and keep women's sports for women. Yeah. This is crazy, guys, but let's go ahead and read this. USA Today sports journalist or columnist Nancy Armour smeared ESPN broadcaster Sam Ponder for daring to defend the integrity of women's sports in the face of transgender radicals. In a Twitter post last week, Ponder came out in support of swimmer and activist Riley Gaines, who had shared several messages she had received from young girls in California that have to compete with men in their beloved sport. Now, I find that crazy, guys, that girls actually have to compete with males. But that is the People's Republic of California. So I guess I shouldn't be too surprised here. But you can see this tweet here from Riley Gaines. She says, just a few of the many messages I've received from the girls, plus their parents in California, whose sport is being infiltrated with mediocre men, they feel helpless. How can you read these and think what's happening is okay? It's discrimination against women and bullying at its finest. Now, in California, I believe it's a lost cause. I believe it is. The left runs on California, and they're all on board with this. Now, Samantha Ponder actually replies to Riley Gaines' tweet and says, I barely said anything publicly about this issue, and I've had so many people message me, stop me in the street to say thank you, plus tell me stories about girls who are afraid to speak up for fear of lost employment, being called hateful. It is not hateful to demand fairness in sports for girls. So now that actually leads us to Nancy Armour. Now, Nancy Armour is an older woman, but of course, this is USA Today. So Nancy Armour is going to be all on board with the madness that's going on. Nancy Armour is okay with biological men going over into women's sports and destroying everything. It says here on Sunday, USA Today sports columnist Nancy Armour scolded Ponder for supporting women's sports, accusing her of, quote, plain old bigotry. Quote, don't be fooled by the people who screech about fairness to cloak their bigotry towards transgender girls and women. The transgender girls and women who have the audacity to want to play sports, in particular, Armour wrote. This is and always was about hate, fear, and ignorance, she said. Armour then basically played a strawman game by claiming that Ponder should have talked about the lack of equitable funding for women's sports if she actually cared about the subject. Quote, did Ponder use her platform to express outrage at any of this? Urge her nearly 500,000 followers on Twitter to write or call their representative and ask that women be given the funding and opportunities that they rightfully deserve. Did she publicly participate in any of the many excellent documentaries, videos, and commentary ESPN did to commemorate the 50th anniversary of Title IX last year, or even tweet about them? Well, actually, ESPN, they actually put Leah Thomas in that 50th anniversary of Title IX. I mean, ESPN went completely against what Sam Ponder actually does believe in. But anyway, she goes on, she says, quote, no, she did not. Her public concern about fairness for female athletes starts and stops with the minuscule number of transgender women who are participating in sports. The thing is, it is growing. It is growing because I believe there's people out there that see the growing number of biological males going over into female sports. And they're saying, you know what? I'm not good enough to actually compete against males. So let me go over and compete against the females, and that way I can win. And then they know they can. And for the most part, they are winning, guys. And there's another tweet here also. And I believe this is actually probably part of that same tweet. But it says, if ESPN Sam Ponder was truly concerned about women's sports, she's had ample opportunity in the last year to call out the inequities that actually do exist. She hasn't. This isn't about fairness. It's about bigotry. So that is right there from a woke columnist, Nancy Armour. Guys, this is why I say, man, women are going to have to be united on this whole thing. But they're not. For the most part, the mainstream media, the women in the mainstream media, they're all on board with men going over into women's sports and destroying the competition. They seem perfectly okay with that. Outside of, of a Sam Ponder, a Sage Steele. Now, when it comes to female athletes, a lot of them seem to be on board with it too. We talked about Brittany Griner's down with it. Also, Megan Rapinoe, they're perfectly okay. But I'm willing to bet, guys, that they actually had to compete against a biological male, they would change their tune when they get dominated. Now, Martina Navratilova, she's also been pretty vocal about not allowing biological men to compete against women. It could end badly, guys. We actually had a biological female suffer a concussion because a biological male competing as a female in volleyball spiked the ball directly in her head, and she really hasn't been right since. That actually happened last year. That was allowed to happen. I believe, guys, that there needs to be lawsuits. I believe that people need to be held accountable. But the mainstream media, they're enabling all of this. And guess what? Women, if you're not united, you can just kiss women's sports goodbye. That's just my thoughts on this. What do you guys think of this? Black and white sports fans, let us know what you think about all this in the comments. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.